Thank you for joining us on the program. From the National Assembly, I'm Ignatius Nkwo. Well, from the other paper, the Senate has scheduled 3 items for consideration, and one of them is the confirmation of the appointment of Justice Ibrahim Mohamed as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Well, at the moment, the Senate has gone on an executive session before the confirmation begins. But because of that, now we'll now bring you a repeat of Senate plenary of Thursday, the 11th of July, 2019, the day the Senate received the executive communication requesting the confirmation of the appointment of the CJN. But as soon as the Senate opens its doors after the closed-door session, we'll now take you straight so as to follow the proceedings on the floor of the Senate.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Plenary commenced with President of the Senate, Mohamed reading the letter of the President requesting confirmation of nominees.
In accordance with Section 231, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, which gives the President powers to appoint a Chief Justice of Nigeria on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council and subject to confirmation of the appointment by the Senate. I have the honor to forward the nomination of Honorable Dr. Justices Ibrahim Tanko, Mohamed, CFR, for confirmation as Chief Justice of Nigeria. It is my hope that this request will receive the usual expeditious consideration of the distinguished Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please accept Senate President assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. Letter from Mr. President, distinguished Senator Ahmed Ibrahim Lawan, President of the Senate. Dear distinguished Senate President, appointment of special advisors. Pursuant to the provision of Section 151 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, which confers on the President power to appoint special advisors to assist him in the performance of his functions, I write to request the kind consideration of the distinguished Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to appoint 15 special advisors. While hoping that this request will receive the usual expeditious consideration of the distinguished Senate, please accept Mr. Senate President assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari.
Senator Jibrin Barau drew the attention of the Senate to the agreement recently signed by the President, which makes Nigeria a member of the African Continental Free Trade Union. It described the agreement as a welcome development and advised the federal government to create more economic zones and sensitize the business community in Nigeria of the benefits of the policy.
It's a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Barau Jibrin and 44 others on Nigeria's membership of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Barau Jibrin to move the motion.
Mr. President, I seek your permission to read the motion as follows. The Senate knows with delight that after the long expectation, Nigeria last weekend signed the agreement to formally become a member of the African Continental Free Trade Area. After observes that the President, Mohamed Buhari, signed the agreement at the 12th Extraordinary Summit of the African Union holding in Niamey, Niger Republic, thus ending the heightened expectations of Nigerians on the desirability or otherwise of the country's membership of the continental body. Delighted that the country's membership of the African Continental Free Trade Area came into existence in March 2018 following the adoption of the Phase 1 of the agreement by heads of state and governments of their 10th Extraordinary Summit in Kigali, Rwanda. Recalls that Nigeria declined to sign the agreement in Kigali because of the agitations and apprehensions by the private sector in Nigeria on the premise that membership of the African Free Trade Area will make Nigeria a dumping ground for goods and services from other African countries. Further notes that the consent of Nigeria follows the recommendations of the Presidential Committee set up to make wider consultations on the benefits or otherwise of Nigeria's membership, and concerned that not a great number of Nigerians understand the profound benefits of the Free Trade Area Agreement in the light of the rather intricate interplay of economic theories and their applications as they affect the common man. Accordingly resolves to 1, commend President Mohamed Buhari for his strong political and economic will in accepting to sign the agreement in spite of earlier misgivings which have been put to rest by the Presidential Technical Committee on the matter. 2, urge the federal government to enlighten the Nigerian business community to leverage on the immense benefits of the agreement. 3, urge the federal government to continue its current policy of improving our infrastructure, such as electricity, roads, and other basic necessities, in order to bring about reduction in the cost of production and thus make products produced in Nigeria globally competitive. That has been the fear of most Nigerian business men and women. And lastly, that is number 4, urge the federal government to be the main driving force for the success of Nigeria's memberships by ensuring that policies and programs are in large part consistent with the mission and vision of the agreement. Mr. President, I so submit. Thank you.
Mr. Senate President, again, thank you for this opportunity. In support of this great motion by Senator Barrow, I dare say that we have come to a very, in our nation's life, where we must think Africa to promote our economy, and also in the interests of our foreign policy. You may have heard that we commonly have what is called balanced trade, World Trade Organization. And in this relationship with the rest of the world, Nigeria has been a loser because we never had what we call balanced trade in the so-called World Trade Organization. Within the African region, we're the champion and we're the leader. And we're the most populated. We command the market, we command the commerce. Being part of this business will help the African development, in particular our nation's economy. So I'm in full support that for those of them that are giving wrong interpretation to this very great project should make a rethink, and Nigeria should wholly embrace it and be part of it. Some of the advantages we have in this is that when we come together as Africa, trading with one another, Nigeria definitely will emerge as the economic leader of this African business. But some of the challenges we have is that of transportation. For you to get some part of African country, you first of all go back to Europe before you can connect an African country. So this will be a starting point to encourage us to see how we can develop this trade and transportation within Africa. I think Nigeria has a lot to benefit within this African business arrangement than even in our World Trade Organization. And if we do have this, then our World Trade Organization and balance of trade will begin to make a meaning. So, Mr. Senate President, my submission this morning will be that as those in line with the prayers, that we do encourage Nigeria's participation in this deal. Thank you.
I would like to commend the mover of this motion for this very important motion that he has brought forward. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in the body of this motion, he has raised one very important point, which is the fear that Nigeria, as the largest market in Africa, will turn into a dumping ground. That fear is not unfounded, and I would like to call on this distinguished chamber that we must take this very seriously. I would like to share one or two experiences that justify this position. When the WTO was signed, while other countries, especially the Eastern and Southern African countries, were putting in place national framework for them to exploit the opportunities afforded by the WTO, Nigeria was only using participation in WTO activities as a jamboree. When the American government put in place the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, the Eastern and Southern African countries were putting in place national framework and implementation plan to take advantage of AGOA so that they can increase their trade and reduce the deficit of the balance of trade between them and other countries. We here
We are now live on the floor of the Senate chamber, where the Senate is now set to confirm the appointment of Justice Ibrahim Tanko Mohamed. Justice Ibrahim Mohamed Tanko is now being ushered into the chamber by the President's Senior Advisor on Legislative Matters, Senate, CJN. On the 11th of July 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari wrote to the Senate requesting the confirmation of Justice Ibrahim Tanko Mohamed as Chief Justice of Nigeria. Justice Tanko just exhibited the rituals normally associated with parliamentary entrance, and then he has gone straight to the podium for the screening proper to commence. I'm Ignatius Nkwo.
See how it was. Okay.
Justice Ibrahim Tanko Mohamed was born on the 31st of December 1953 at Dogwa, Giade in Bauchi State. Justice Tanko attended the Giade Primary School between 1965 and 1968, where he later proceeded for Government Secondary School Azare between 1969 and 1973. The justice was called to the Nigerian bar on the 5th of November 1981. He served temporarily with the Bauchi State Ministry of Justice between June-October 1980. Justice Tanko Mohamed has held several appointments and occupied various positions, which include the Chairman Board of Benchers 2018 to date. He is the Chairman of Education Committee, National Judicial Institute, which has zoomed from 2017 to date. We have the fellow of the National Judicial Institute. He is the fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. Justice Ibrahim Tanko is the Deputy Chairman and Chairman Interview Committee of the National Judicial Council in 2017 to date.
We have copies of your CV and photocopies of the supporting documents. But if there are any other things that you want us to know, you can go ahead and brief or address the Senate on those additional other information or things that you want the Senate to know in addition to what we have at hand. You are welcome once more. Thank you.
The Honorable Senate President, distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Let me start by introducing my name, although it is on the CV. I am Ibrahim Tanko Mohamed. All other qualifications are on the CV, except if I am asked to expatiate on some of them, I think I have adequately taken care of my qualifications and what have you. But for the sake of clarification, I was born in a small village along Kano-Maiduguri Road, the old road, not the new one, in a village called Dogwa Giali in Bauchi State. And that was in 1953. I, as usual, attended the Quranic school from the start, and then I proceeded, I was enrolled in primary school. I was supposed to have been enrolled along my friends in 1960, but because of my height, they decided to pick me out to say maybe we will test you next year. Now, in 1961, they brought, still my height did not increase. But when they were putting questions to me, they found that I was answering them satisfactorily. So they said, whatever it is, we will enroll him. So I was enrolled into primary school in 1961, and we finished ultimately in 1967. As God would have it, in 1967, maybe some of those of us who sat in 1967 we would know that it was really a year that was tough, and many of the schools could not make the common entrance examination. So the headmaster and the teachers there called me into the office and said, we don't have to tell your parents. You are going to repeat 1 year. I said, no problem. I was smallish in nature, but that did not really bother me. So I repeated, and by 1968, we finished, and I went to secondary school, Azare, 69 to 73. Then we were the first set of what was opened as Northeast College of Arts and Science, NECAS, in 73. Well, for some personal reason, I left that school. I came back because I was lured by a brother because he got appointment for me in Bank of the North. I came back and I worked for 2 years. While working, I said to myself, look, Ibrahim, if you will continue like that, those boys you left in secondary school who are coming through you, because our bank was on our secondary school way. Those who know Azare, that was the first bank. It was on our secondary school. They used to come and collect 5 kobo, 10 kobo from me. Now I said, if I continue like that, where was I going? I will leave all these boys, they will come and pass me, going nowhere. Then I left that job. I was admitted into the Advanced Teachers College, Kano. I went there, but quickly I found myself switched to Bayero University for my preliminary course. And from there, when I finished, one of the foreign lecturers advised some of us, you people, why don't you try, we don't offer law in Bayero, why don't you go to ABU? So we collected the form, we filled the form, and we were taken. That was the beginning of my profession. I was in ABU. I finished my LLB in 1980, went for the NYSC in 1981. Then in 1982, I was appointed a magistrate in Bauchi State. And from there, I continued up to today. Now, there was a time I happened to be the provost of the College of Legal and Islamic Studies in Misau. Now, I was handpicked by the then governor of the state, and I was appointed. I was there for some years, and then later I was transferred to the FCT here, High Court. From there, still, Bauchi State government wrote a letter that they wanted me back. I went back as a Qadi, the Sharia Court of Appeal. Now, everybody was furious about my going back to Bauchi because I'm here in Abuja. Why should I go to Bauchi? I told them, look, you are not the people who studied for me. I studied. Allow me to pursue my own course. I went back. I did not spend up to 2 years. Then there was an invitation for me that I should go to the Court of Appeal. And from there, I went to the Court of Appeal 93. And then Court of Appeal, I was there for almost 12 or 13 years. And I was a presiding justice primarily here in Abuja at the Court of Appeal. And from there, I was appointed to the Supreme Court, 2007. From that time to date, I am a justice of the Supreme Court. And that is where I serve. That is a very small introduction, sir, of myself.
Thank you very much, my Lord. Distinguished colleagues, we have listened to the additional information and emphasis. We will ask our questions, and I will call one after the other. Let me start with Senator Abomoro.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Comrade Abomoro Senator representing the very good people of the Benue South Senatorial District of Benue State. Mr. President, I thank you for giving me the privilege to fire the first salvo. Your Lordship, because of this privilege, may I ask if you can share with us here, senators, and indeed Nigerians, your vision and your thoughts for the Nigerian judiciary, especially now that you are being considered to become the head of the entire judicial system in Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator George Thompson Sekibo.
Mr. Chairman, my distinguished colleagues, I am Senator George Thompson Sekibo. I represent the Rivers Central District from Rivers State. My Lord, the CJN. Mr. President, I have just a question, but in ABC. Permit me before I bring the question forth. Because for me, what we are doing is an assessment of performance. It is not necessarily a purpose, because the CJN has occupied the seat and has done for me very, very well for the past period of the administration, even though it was an acting position. He has stabilized the judiciary system. He has put the courts together, especially what we used to observe in those days when there are different cases, cases that are in two different courts of the same case brought by the same person, giving different judgment. I think those ones have been streamlined properly. And I felt that also through the turbulence of all these political classes, you have done so well for us. We've gone through the CVs, nothing bars you from becoming the CJN of this country. So I would ask my question is on the prisons. I happen to be chairman, Senate Committee on Interior, and I found out these few things in 2015. At that time, we had 67 prison inmates in Nigerian prisons, out of which we were told only 20,000 have actually been giving judgment, whether we are condemned or given different terms of imprisonment. And then 47,000 persons were awaiting on trials. Some of them have been in prison for over 13 years. So my question, Mr. CJN, is this. Why do those who have the power to execute condemned prisoners withhold the power given to them by the Constitution and allow them still to remain in the prisons? What can we do about it? That is the first one. The second question is it not an injustice to keep somebody on awaiting trial for years, whose offense, maybe if it had been properly adjudicated, may fetch him a year or maybe just 2 years imprisonment, and the person now has spent over 10 years or so in prison? Will it be out of place, sir? Third question, to set up an ad hoc courts that can carry out speedy trials of people who have been just on waiting trial for this long period. And finally, if you give somebody on a waiting trial, for 5-10 years, and then he's giving a judgment, he has already been in the prison for 5-10 years, for instance, and then he's giving a judgment for 2 years against him to be in prison. What do we do about the years he has already served? And then, if he is free by the judgment, by the findings of is there that can compensate him for spending years or more in prison?
ourselves to maximum of 2 questions, because all to ask.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. My Lord, I want to just know how you are going to bring new laws for us to strengthen the judiciary and also strengthen. No, I'm coming. Bring new laws to us. Bills, sorry. Bring bills to us. Bring new bills, to strengthen the judiciary so the instant clash that the judiciary and the security agencies are having will stop. Because sometimes there are processes of removing a judiciary officer. And sometimes our law enforcement agencies just bungle into these people all over Nigeria without minding that there are established laws already. You have to get us a new bill to strengthen your hand to be able. Thank you, Mr. President.
My Lord, you can answer the first 3 questions.
Mr. President and distinguished senators, the Nigerian judiciary. Now, the Nigerian judiciary is only one arm of government. We cannot, on our own, except when we put heads together with the legislature and with the executive, that we may be able to project the Nigerian judiciary to limelight. As normal, I believe you have the presumption, and you know it very well, that the judiciary doesn't talk. We don't say anything, and we don't make follow-ups, because we don't want the same to be done to us. Therefore, we leave everything to the executive and the legislature, believing that the executive and the legislature know the pros and the cons of the other arm of government, that is the judiciary. Now, but with due respect, that is not the true position of what obtains in the society. Now, we therefore rely on what is made as a provision for us. We never go hand in cap begging or asking for anything. Because if I ask, tomorrow I will be asked, and I wouldn't like it. Therefore, we are very careful, and we remain contented with the provision made for us. There may be some differences in the way things have been operated in the states, because there are different states, and there are different understandings in between especially the executive and perhaps the judiciary. But usually, and in good principle of law, we never go a-begging, because I wouldn't want anybody to come a-begging to me. If I do that and I don't reciprocate, then I will become somebody else. Therefore, it is better you don't even start it at all. We are therefore contented with what is given to us. But where we have the opportunity, as this very opportunity that this distinguished Senate has provided for me today, if I am permitted, I may bring hosts of problems that are becoming stumbling block to the progress of the Nigerian judiciary, or particularly the judiciary at the federal level. We understand some of the states are doing something a little different. Now, we hope by the time we go back, we make attempts to see that we bring our proposals for the amendments of many of our laws. When we get those laws amended, certainly the operation will be better. Now, in other states, because we don't control the states, the governors there allow them to modify all the system, and they are doing better. Now we can see it from the case reports, because we asked them to be giving us reports on what obtains in the states. Now we see a lot of improvement. So it all depends on the treatment the executive, or the position or the status the executive has given to the judiciary. We will not go a-begging. But if what is due for us is given to us in good time, we want, let us be supervised and observe what we do. We're sure it will be a little better off than we found it. And I intend, God willing, that I will project, if I have the cooperation of the executive and the legislature, to project the Nigerian judiciary into greater heights. So I'm soliciting, although I was solicited at the proper time, this is not the proper time for me to beg, because I'm under examination. So I hope by the time we'll make it very clear to the legislature and the executive, I hope they'll be able to assist the Nigerian judiciary. As old as it is, we are in the old reminiscence up till today. Let us see some beautiful things in the judiciary. Let us appreciate that our brothers who are seated here and in the Executive Council appreciate what we do. We are not asking for anything, but let us be given what is due for us, what is our right, and let us have structures that befit our status. For example, the executive just recently has recommended that we should go on to appoint more justices, about 5 or 6 of them. Yeah, when we appoint the 5, that's making 21, because we cannot exceed 21 until and unless we come to you and you permit us to do so, then we can. But we require a number of justices and judges, quite all right. But we are limited to 21. Now, if we go on to appoint the 5 or the 6, where do we accommodate them? How do we, and even in the offices, we don't have office vacant now for a judge, for a justice that is coming. The only thing is, if it happens, we have to remove some junior officers from their offices. We send them down and we create a temporary structure for them, and then we ask the new justices to occupy their offices. That is the only alternative for us. But if the executive and the legislator know our problems, I am sure any time we come, they will say, okay, please go and resolve your problem. Therefore, we may, as time goes on, be coming to you to appeal to you to see that the judiciary is up to the standard, is up to the level, so that if anybody comes, even though when they come now from Ghana, from other places, they are really very happy to see the way we are working and to see even the structures we have. But Nigeria, as we always say, is a big brother. Therefore, we have to behave and act in a big brotherly manner. So that is what we intend to make of the judiciary through the legislature and the executive. Thank you.
My Lord, I'm not, I will advise that you take little time in answering the questions, but give all the necessary details, because there will be so many questions and the day will be very long. Minority Leader. Okay, go ahead.
If I am permitted. Now, the one is by Honorable Distinguished Sekibo. He is talking about what we can do in order to see to those who are in the awaiting trials. My distinguished Senator, sir, our own is only to interpret and apply the law. Sir, there are situations where offenses committed by a suspect are primarily not bailable. There's no way a judge or a magistrate can admit the accused person to bail. So the only place for such an accused person is custody. And there is no any other place you can put him to custody but the prison. Now, we try to see that as much as possible. An offense which is bailable, we try to see that we urge even the lower courts to admit them to bail. But the problem is, what is happening is, you find an accused person who is admitted to bail running away. He doesn't want to come back for trial. And he is putting the person who takes his bail into trouble. But we don't want to really punish somebody just because of the offense committed by another person, to put him to prison. No, I don't know of anybody who did it. But certainly, I know, sir, from experience, from the time I was I was a magistrate when I was really dealing with this kind of bills and others. I know it normally happened. And sometimes I just had to shake my head because I wouldn't want somebody who takes bail to go in place of the accused person who has run away. And I wouldn't want him to forfeit his money, especially if it is a criminal matter. We don't ask anybody to pay any money. But the thing is that since you have agreed to come and bail this man, you have agreed, therefore, whether explicitly or impolitely, that you are rendering yourself into the position, into the status of that person who has run away. Therefore, I have the option to send you to prison. But you wouldn't want it. And as a human being also, I must have that feeling. You are coming just to answer. I send you to prison. Your family will not see you again because they will not allow you to go anywhere. Some of them will say, I will want to go and change my dress. No way. You go straight to the prison. So we wouldn't want that kind of thing. Now, all this boils, all this boils to one thing, sirs. It is the legislature that will take a holistic look at really our laws. How do we improve our laws? As much as we would want it, there is nothing we can do. The only thing we do is fair comment in our judgments. When we make those kind of fair comments, and if there's somebody who is following, maybe he will extract those fair comments, maybe bring it to you, have a look at it, and then if you decide, you make it to be a law. But we can never, we don't have the power to make a law. So this is the position, and this is the problem, sir. Those awaiting trials, is not on our wish that we are sending them. If it is bailable, we announce it to the whole world that the accused person is hereby admitted into bail of 200,000 naira and a surety in the like sum. Get somebody to come and bail you. He must be in the possession of those 200,000 naira. In the event he runs away, we will ask you to pay because we wouldn't want to send you to prison. If you fail to settle, then perhaps there's no alternative. It is the law that makes the provision for you. So, if you like, as the legislators, you can alter the position of the law and make it to be better. In other countries, they don't do this kind of things. But we have to take at our own position as Nigerians and in Nigeria. So I think it is left to the legislature to legislate. Our own is to interpret and apply the law. We don't even enforce the law. So I think I'll limit it here, sir.
Thank you very much, the minority leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yes.
My lord, you can take a seat while they ask the questions, and when you respond, you come back to your mic.
I'm not tired. I can see men standing, sir.
I can see there's serious stamina here. Okay. Thank you, my lord. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Ibrahim. I represent Abia South. And thank you, my lord, for the exposition on the matter of bail. My lord, the Senate President has restricted us to 2 questions, but I will just take one question, very small one. and then an advice. My question is on the philosophy of the Supreme Court. My Lord, in 2018, Akeredolu versus Abraham, I can quote the Supreme Court, if you permit me. The Supreme Court said, technicality in the administration of justice shuts out justice, and went further to say that it is therefore better to have a case heard and determined on its merits than to leave the court with the shield of victory obtained on mere technicality. This Supreme Court. So we're very happy with that. But my Lord, just a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court also said, and I quote, "The correct order to make is to declare the judgment of the trial tribunal a nullity as a result of one of the panelists not sitting on a day proceedings were held." And so Nigerians are really worried. Where would this Supreme Court be situated? We would like to know from you, under you, where justice will be, not where justice will be, what we can expect from the Supreme Court under you. The second part, my Lord, is an advice. The country is in very serious trouble, and we all know. And we see the court as the institution that will help us to be able to navigate out of the difficulties we are in today. And so, my advice, my Lord, is that this Supreme Court under you must continue to put Nigeria before any other thing, so that we can have a country. Because if we don't have a country, there will be no Senate, there will be no Supreme Court, there will be nothing except a Somalia situation, and we don't want that. Thank you, my Lord.
Thank you. Senate Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Robert Ajayi Borofis, representing Ondo North Senatorial District. My Lord, let me congratulate you on your nomination by Mr. President for the office of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. As one of my colleagues said, by qualification and experience, I think you are qualified for this job. But we have to do our own job here. My Lord, the legislature defines democracy because in militaryocracy, there is no legislature. In most dictatorship, there is no legislature. So it is the legislature that defines democracy. My Lord, when there is a sort of clash or disagreement between two arms of government, because we operate the presidential system of government made up of the judiciary, which by God's grace you heard, the legislature, and the executive. Now, if there's any difference between the executive and the legislature, we expect that the judiciary should come in. One instance that has bothered me as a legislator is the issue of appropriation. The executive submits the appropriation bill for the Senate or for the National Assembly to look at and then make a decision on allocation of resources.
In some cases, because the legislators also have the mandate to travel around the country, go to all the agencies to carry out oversight function to ensure, thank you, Mr. President, to ensure that the resources allocated are judicially used. Now, my Lord, when there is a disagreement between the legislature and the executive in terms of appropriation, who has the final say? Thank you. Yeah.
My Lord, I think this is one question that we, at the moment, we are not in court. We are not seeking for interpretation. So I will advise that you, for now, leave it out. Senator Abdullah Adam.
Thank you very much, our distinguished chair. My Lord, I have just two questions. The first one has to do with the ongoing debate in virtually every democracy in the so-called developed world as to the position of individual liberties weighing against collective sovereign authority. What would be the attitude of our apex court? One case one has in mind, if you remember, my Lord, 9/11 in the United States of America, where laws were made to conserve the authority of state in cases where the security of the state is at stake, as against the liberty of the individual. It's a running debate. It is still going on. What school of thought would you be inclined to see? Would the scale of justice tilt towards the individual liberty or to the collective liberty of the state as expressed in sovereignty? My second question is on the issue of the concept of imprisonment. Essentially, we see imprisonment as a form or a forum where the convict is made to reform. It's reformatory. Given your experience on your first day on the bench to this moment, would you say that objective has been achieved? Nigerian context. Thank you. Okay, sit down.
Side questions.
Now the question by distinguished Senator Baribe centers on the technicalities and perhaps the difficulties we are facing in technicalities. Permit me distinguished President and the senators to say that what is a technicality? Something which is technical, in my definition, it is something that is not usual, that may sometimes defy all the norms known to a normal thing. It may be technical. Now, we have technicalities in our laws, and this is because these laws that we have inherited, we inherited them from the British. The British people have, for quite centuries ago, introduced what is known as technicalities in their laws. Now, if something is technical, it is in a way given a leeway for double interpretation. It may be interpreted this way by Mr. A, or it may be interpreted this way by Mr. B. Now, if something is technical, comes before the law or before the courts, what we normally do at the trial court is we ask people who are expert in that field to come and testify. We rely on their testimony because they are experts in that field. Ask me anything on aeroplane, I don't know. Ask me to drive an aeroplane, I am sure if you are a passenger and they told you that that flight is going to be driven by Honorable Justice Ibrahim Tanko, I am sure you'll get out of the plane. Because it is something that requires technicality. And if I have any technicality, my technicality will only be limited to law. Therefore, it is something that has to do with the perception of the way you think you'll be able to achieve the goals of what you want to achieve. Several of our laws are dependent on technicalities. But remember, when we come, we have what is known as rules of interpretation. We resort to rules of interpretation. There are several rules of interpretation. Those of us who are lawyers here, no, there are several rules of interpretation. So we resort to that one. And it is through that we resolve the problem that is technically raised. So that is the answer. Now, on the second one, which is asked by the deputy leader on the relationship between the legislature and the executive in a democracy.
My Lord,
yes, sir.
I suggested that you don't have to answer the question because we are at the moment not seeking for an interpretation, and the question was, I think, more of interpretation on the authority, and you can skip that. Thank you.
The next one is the position of an individual's liberty against that of a collective. Now, this is asked by His Excellency, distinguished Senator Abdullahi. Now, this is really something that will have to go from several individuals, that the person who killed that man, because they say was a responsible somebody, be granted bail. All I said was that my hands were tied. I could not admit this man to bail in a train, fighting and killing somebody in a train. Now, so that kind of situation may arise where the liberty of an individual is now being looked at as sacrosanct. That is the accused person now. But remember, please, this is somebody, although it has not been proved, but this is somebody that is alleged to have killed another person. So, what are you saying? The law has made provision that if there is anything like that, you as the judge, you don't have any option, but you have to detain that person. And he was detained. There was no way you could grant bail to such a person. If you see where such a person, as far as I know in the North, and as far as I read the criminal code of the South, no way you can grant this kind of person to bail. So these are the kind of situations, because he has killed the life of somebody. So you have to look at the kind of situation that is before you, and then you take a decision. The position of collectivism is always put on and on top of the liberty of an individual. And I am sure everybody knows this. Where a society wants something, and then an individual says no. You can even see when you want to cite a school or a hospital in a place, in a village, somebody will say, this is my farm. You don't have any right to do that. And you cannot do it. If you go to a court of law, and that is the only place, the court will grant you your request, because it is for the society. Without the society, that individual would not have been there. So you look at the society, what really the society wants, and then you go along that line. Now, the concept of imprisonment. Imprisonment is a defined period where somebody who is proved to have acted wrongly in the society or suspected to have also done wrong in the society and of equal gravity, then the only thing is to handle out that particular individual from the society so that he does not infest the society with his venom. Remove him from the society. Don't allow him to go outside the society. Keep him aside, but for a limited time. If you allow him to go, definitely you are polluting the society. Let me just give you one example which happened in my career as a magistrate. I think it was either 1982 or 83. Somebody was brought, suspected to have committed a grave offense. And I admitted, I just had to send him for detention. I know that I signed his form for detention. Now, to my surprise, I was in railway then, those of us who know Bauchi, I was coming from railway, just getting to the chief imam's house. I saw somebody, a very tall man, like the person I detained, moving briskly on the street, on the road. And I was in my Toyota car, alone. I had to take a very good look at the man. And I was sure that he was the man. Is that the man I detained? Yes. So in the morning, I had to call the registrar. Mr. Registrar, yes. Can you, well, before that, I sent to the prison yard to confirm the persons in detention under my court. And I found his name was not there. So I called the chief registrar to ask, Mr. Registrar, what happened? I saw Mr. So walking yesterday. Was he the one really? Then he was trying to deny. Then I called the remaining workers in the court, clerks and others. They were there, then I presented that paper to him. Is that not this man? Is he there in the list which is brought to me from the prison yard? So later he came confessing and telling me, yes, he was released to bail because his father was seriously sick in the village and his brothers came asking for his bail. But I asked him, but you know that go and take the record should be suspended. Because those of us who are working in the court must take care of the registrars. Otherwise, your registrar will kill you. I'm telling you. Registrars, you have to have. Because by then we allow them to make admission to the prison yard, bring out on trial the people. From there, I took it over. And I had to make a report to the chief judge, and an amendment was done, that it was the judge or the magistrate that must sign production warrant. So if care is not taken, all these kind of things will infest the society. So with this, sir, I think, sir, I may say that I will put a comma here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, my lord. Oh, hold on, please. The DSP.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ovie Omo Agege, Delta Central Senatorial District. I rise not unmindful of the mood of our colleagues, that you take a bow. It is also a mood I share. But be that as it may, for the record, I want to state that I've had the opportunity and indeed the privilege to go through the reports of the NJC and the Federal Judicial Service Commission. And I want to align myself with their position. I believe that this is a good nomination and that you add value to our jurisprudence. But having said that, I just want to ask, everyone knows, my lord, that the fight against corruption is one area that is very, very dear to the executive arm of government, very, very dear to all of us here, the senators, very, very dear to all Nigerians. As a consequence of that, my Lord, people are of the view that as head of the court, it's expected, or they are requesting of you, to designate certain judges, or indeed certain courts, as special anti-corruption courts to hear all of these cases, to fast-track these cases, so that cases do not languish in these courts for 8, 9, 10 years. I'm talking about corruption cases. I'm also aware, my Lord, that you have an anti-corruption trial monitoring committee. We don't know what the result is, but for sure, we have not seen these cases being fast-tracked. I'd like to know your views on that. We're entitled to 2 questions. The other one, let me just touch it briefly. Of 2. Let me just touch that a little bit on that. The legislative powers to make laws is vested in us here in the National Assembly. You have your Section 6 powers, your judicial powers. My Lord, when we make laws, for the most part, we try as best we can to cure what we consider to be mischief arising from some decisions taken by the courts. But my Lord, we find that more often than not, after we've made these laws believing that we've cured these mischiefs, in your interpretation of these laws, we're back to square one. Some people are not very, very comfortable with judicial activism. They believe that we should make the law, interpret it the way we've written the law. But we end up seeing you actually making these laws for us. That some people are actually wondering whether you've taken over both our Section 4 rights and also your Section 6 rights. So I want to hear your views on how, going forward, what assurances you give to us that the laws that we pass here will be interpreted based on our own intendment. Thank you very much, my Lord. Yes.
I will call for the last round of questions. Distinguished Senator Mohamed Adamalero, Senator Bamidele, and Senator Suswan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. My Lord, CJN designate. Mr. President, sorry, Mr. Chairman, the question I wanted to ask has already been asked by my colleague, Senator Sikibu. And it was eloquently answered. So I would rather suggest that I give my chance to another person. Thank you, Bob.
Senator Bamidele.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. Independence of the judiciary is critical if we are talking about independence of the judiciary. This has to be balanced, however, with also the need for integrity, including in the area of fiscal, and I mean financial prudence on the part of the judiciary. I therefore, my Lord, would like you to address the Senate and Nigerians on the issue of financial autonomy of the judiciary. Because my chair, I need your protection. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because, my Lord, there is growing public concern of recent on the need for financial independence of the judiciary, particularly state judiciaries. And then, of course, the second leg of my question is to say, my Lord, that I am glad that in your opening remarks, you promised to clamp down on corruption and inefficiency in the judiciary. Rightly or wrongly, my Lord, the corruption perception index for the judiciary is not encouraging. What steps or mission would His Lordship take to improve the situation? I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Gabriel Suswan. And then we donate Senator Alary's chance to Senator Oluremi Tinubu. Will be gender sensitive.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my name is Gabriel Suswam, representing Benue Northeast. My Lord, I want to join other colleagues in appreciating the President for nominating you. I've also read the recommendations of the NJC. My Lord, I want to say that we look forward to a robust judiciary under your leadership. My Lord, having said that, since you assume the position of acting Chief Judge, I have listened to some of your remarks as it relates to the reforms in the judiciary. My Lord, I want you to share your vision as it relates to justice administration, particularly in the areas of practice, direction, rules, and procedure. If we can share that with the Senate and Nigerians. My Lord, closely related to this question is something you've touched on in your explanation earlier on. I will reframe the way I have couched the question. Mr. President, sometimes about a month or some few weeks ago, alluded to appointing more Supreme Court justices. You mentioned to us here that you might not be averse to that position, but for the fact that the infrastructure that will accommodate those who are appointed is not available. My Lord, my question is, given the fact that most of the appeals that come from the Court of Appeal across the entire country, the Supreme Court is just one. In the Court of Appeal, you have a lot of divisions across the entire country. All of the appeals emanating from these divisions come directly to the Supreme Court. So you have loads of work, and you are just 21, as you say. Will you accept that more justices of the Supreme Court be appointed if you have the necessary infrastructure to accommodate them?
Senator Oluremi Tinubu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Oluremi Tinubu, representing Lagos Central Senatorial District. My Lord, with the mood of the Senate, I want to say congratulations and to wish you well. But having listened to you, I think your story is very inspiring. So I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to ask any legal question. I was just wondering, listening to you as a young man, having such resilience and courage and tenacity, despite you have been told to go back and come back, and I watched it, and I thought this is quite inspiring for any young Nigerian at this age and time to hear you occasionally, outside the judiciary, or just to speak to them. When we look at the state of our nation right now, our young ones, they need a lot of role models, people who have achieved. We don't have role models anymore. Now we talk about mentors, because corruption has eaten deep into the fabric of the society, and our young ones are very suspicious of everyone. But you know, somebody with your pedigree, maybe outside office, I think Nigeria needs you more. Because right now, you are in the confine of the judiciary, protected, not speaking to the public or associating the public as it's needed. But what are we going to, what do we owe to this generation? What are we going to leave for them? And I think I would want you and most of members of the judiciary to look into that. And I think that, the young ones will want to listen to you. Thank you very much, and I wish you good health and strength to enjoy your office. Thank you, Mr. President.
My Lord, you can answer the questions asked.
I think so, starting from the question posed by distinguished Senator I think Omar Gigi. Now, he is talking about corruption in the society in general, and in particular in the judiciary. Now, I always say that the Nigerian judiciary is part and parcel of Nigeria. Therefore, I am not surprised if I see some justices are corrupt. But that does not mean that such judges who are corrupt should not be identified and treated. But by the time we finished law school, we went for NYSC, we came back. We had a white man who was our chief judge in Bauchi State. Inherited him from Maiduguri. Now, there was no way you would see any scintilla of anything like corruption. But unfortunately, when it evolved down on us, and this virtually happened in almost all the states, now we started facing problems here and there. Now, let me say generally that corruption is imbued in the person who wants to be corrupted, or the person even who corrupts. Because if there is no corruptor, then there shall be no person who will be corrupted. Left to me, they should face same music. Left to me. Therefore, I am urging distinguished members of the parliament, both here and at the state level, if need be, we take a holistic look at our criminal laws. Let us amend them. Let us take care of all these kind of things. Let us provide adequately so that it will serve to inhibit the practices of this kind of thing. We know there are laws, quite all right now, But for those who are all out to see that they are saying, I'm reading from far distance, they are saying that, what is there? The law is not adequate for me. What is there? I will go and spend 2 years. I come out. By the time I got my millions, this and that. Please, it is the responsibility of the legislature to see that it sanitizes the society. Much as the judiciary would want to do it, once we don't have anywhere to rely on, or where what is given to us is limited by law, that is the end of it. There's nothing we can do. But I believe the legislature, either at the federal level or at the state level, have every power to legislate or to amend the existing legislations on these kinds of provisions. So that all we want is to see that we sanitize the society. Gone are the days. I'm sure many of us who are over 60 here, like me, we knew the time when we will sleep with our eyes closed in an open air space with your room open. Nobody will come and enter your room to remove anything. I'm talking of 1960s, early 1960s. And I believe up to about 75, it was something like that. It can never happen again. It may be difficult for it to happen again. What is happening then? What has brought the change about? We have to check ourselves. We have to check ourselves. Because the problem is with us. It's with us. So that is one of the ways we'll be able to see that we sanitize the society. Now, the question put by a distinguished Senator Bamidele is talking about financial independence. And he made a lot of very good contribution. But for those of us from the judiciary, although we have started seeing signs of the autonomy, but honestly, what is keeping the judiciary aback is the lack of autonomy, especially the financial autonomy. We are not asking for anything more than what is provided for us in the budget. But distinguished, believe you me, you may go to some states, you will find that they are being refused even the ordinary, normal monthly grant. And they have staff, they have vehicles, they have residences, houses to maintain, they have offices to maintain. And where they are collecting revenue, they are not supposed to dip their hands into the revenue, because the revenue must go back to the state or the federation. Then the federation will allocate something for you as a ministry or a department. But these things are not as they used to be. It is therefore, I think, sirs, the duty and responsibility of the legislature at the national level, at the state level, to see that you touch these places. 1984, 123. And that was, I was on level 10. I believe, yes, by then 123 naira was a lot of money. I'll put my T-shirt and we'll go with somebody to the market. I will fill a basket with 50 naira. And I will keep the remaining ones for the running days. Is that happening nowadays? So it is I think my view that it is only the legislature, is my view anyway, sirs. If I am wrong, pardon me. It is the legislature that can put things right, correct things right, call a spade a spade. Go by the prioritization of things. Judiciary, what does it really require? Do we cut anything from what they have suggested? Go and find out what is really happening. We don't have any other way. What is... If I tell you, you will laugh. Begging what I have. The legislature, I'm sure, has every right and has every power to see that things are put right. So I think I've answered that.
Thank you very much, my Lord. Is it the view of the Senate that the nominee takes a bow? My Lord, before you take a bow, let me thank you on behalf of my colleagues for coming and answering all the questions put to you. Let me also, on behalf of my colleagues, assure you that we are primed to work with the judiciary. I was not expecting you to tell us the salaries and other packages, but I was really not very pleased to hear that it is something that is so low. Actually, I believe that you are not supposed to keep it to yourself. We should be able to discuss these kinds of things because we must ensure that the judiciary is also properly remunerated. If we are asking our judges to be above board, we should also play our part. So you have a National Assembly that will work with you. We are not going to discuss this in public, but be rest assured that we are going to look into that, as well as maybe 5, 6 additional judges. You complain of accommodation. I believe that in your first line charge, you could address that. If you are not able to, let's discuss it as well. Thank you very much for coming. You can take a bow and go. Thank you.
Well, Justice Ibrahim Tanko just taking a bow, just as the Senate said. Well, the atmosphere here during the screening was quite calm. Well, senators did say that they commended his state so far as acting chief judge of Nigeria, but then commended him and as well gave some advice, and then sought to know some of the areas and some of the plans he has for Nigeria going forward, especially in the area of anti-corruption. That is, in ways of he's going to use to support the federal government's anti-corruption fight. And then also the senators drew his attention to the high number of inmates awaiting trial in Nigerian prisons across the country, which the chief judge explained and gave an insight into steps taken to ameliorate such situations. And he also well collaborated with some of the senators who said it appears the Supreme Court needs more judges. But then the chief judge has stated categorically today that no lawyer or no judge will be spared found wanting in any corrupt tendency or the other. Now, this marks the end of this screening for the Chief Judge of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Ibrahim. Well, the request for this confirmation was communicated to the Senate and read on the floor. This is exactly 7 days after this communication. Today, the Senate has confirmed the justice. Well, like we did say earlier, the justice was called to bar on the 5th of November, 1981. He attended his primary school at Yade Primary School in Bauchi State from 1965 to 1968, and then proceeded for his secondary education between 1969 and 1973. The Chief Judge has held several positions, quite impressive positions, and has performed creditably well. He is the chairman board of
Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the chair moves back to plenary to report progress. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I second the motion that we revert back to plenary.
Those in favor that the Senate reverse to plenary for the President to report progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it.
Order, order. Order.
The Senate, in the committee of the whole, considered the request of Mr. President CNC for the confirmation of a nominee for appointment as Chief Justice of Nigeria. The nominee answered questions from distinguished senators on judicial matters and a number of topical issues. Thereafter, the committee approved the nomination of Honorable Justice Ibrahim Tonko Mohamed, CFR, as Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Honorable Justice Ibrahim Tonko Mohamed for appointment as the Chief Justice of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. the nomination of Honorable Justice Ibrahim Tanko is hereby confirmed as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Leader of the Senate.